What's up, Taiwan? I'm Jaime Ocon with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. President Lai Ching-te has called on his Democratic Progressive Party to defend Taiwan's sovereignty and its democracy.
民进党必须和公民同行，斗阵承担守护国家的责任。
Lai's speech at his party's annual Congress comes amid intense partisan strife in Taiwan. At the same time, the opposition Kuomintang took to the streets of Taipei, urging voters to reject a July 26 vote that could oust its lawmakers. China has voted to remove senior military official Miao Hua from the country's highest level command. The former People's Liberation Army political ideology chief was a member of the Central Military Commission, or CMC. He was suspended from his post amid an investigation into serious violations of discipline, a euphemism for corruption. Miao is one of the highest-ranking members of the CMC to be removed since the 60s. He is the latest in a series of more than a dozen high-ranking PLA officials ousted as part of President Xi's ongoing anti-corruption campaign. And to find out how these purges and corruption scandals could affect China's military planning, I spoke to John Dotson, director of the Global Taiwan Institute in Washington, D.C. Let's first set this up, John. How significant is this recent corruption case within the PLA, and how big of a problem is corruption in general within China's military?
It's very significant. We've really been seeing for about 2 years now, or maybe 2.5, an almost ongoing purge of some of the most senior figures within the PLA. I mean, in a way that goes far beyond just the occasional personnel swap out to being something that's really systematic. But we've also seen the purging of people that have been placed in very senior positions by Xi Jinping himself, and who actually had experience earlier in their careers serving alongside Xi earlier in his career in Fujian province. The corruption was so endemic in the PLA going back into the 1990s, the earlier parts of the 2000s, and so forth. Corruption was really endemic. Officers frequently had to buy their promotions or give bribes to superiors for the sake of advancement, things like this. So it's probably hard to find someone who came up during that era or who kind of came up as a mid-level officer in that area and then advanced into the flag ranks. It's going to be hard to find people with clean hands.
Now let's look specifically at this case with Miao Hua. Why do you think he specifically was purged? What set it off?
Once again, it's educated guesswork. We really don't know for sure. The way I tend to interpret some of these most recent high-level purges, that being of a former vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, and even more recently, Miao Hua, who's a Navy admiral and who had been the former head of the CMC Political Work Department. And it may well be that there was an impression on Xi's part, particularly following a series of editorials that came out of PLA publications beginning in late 2024 that were advocating for collective leadership and, which could be coded language for criticizing the very autocratic nature of Xi's rule. And so another explanation is that Xi looked at these two men and said, you failed at upholding discipline and proper indoctrination within the PLA, which should mean loyalty to me.
And how is this going to affect planning for China's military in terms of a possible operation around Taiwan? We saw with the war in Ukraine what happens when Russian leader Vladimir Putin surrounds himself with a bunch of yes men, lessons there. Is that the same case that's happening here with Taiwan and China?
But once again, in the case with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, I'm sure there were more sober-minded people in Russia who could have told Vladimir Putin, maybe this isn't the greatest idea, but any of that was swept aside. It was a one-man decision. And so as far as Taiwan is concerned, I think that's the greatest danger there. Decisions regarding military actions or how the CCP might choose to use its military tool, the PLA, may come to be more and more the decision of one man. Sort of these very heavy purges within the PLA, obviously it creates a great deal of disruption. So that could, at least in the shorter term, impede the possibility of larger term military operations if the PLA is preoccupied with getting its own internal house in order.
That was John Dotson, director of the Global Taiwan Institute. The U.S. Supreme Court has handed U.S. President Donald Trump a big legal victory with a ruling limiting judges' ability to block executive policies. The decision could have far-reaching consequences on issues like birthright U.S. citizenship, something Trump has tried to end over lower court objections. But it also reshapes the presidency, shifting the balance of power between federal courts and the executive branch, changing how much power presidents have and how much judges can stop them. Donald Trump says he's ready to fix his country's ties with North Korea. The U.S. president made the comments at an event highlighting his efforts to resolve global conflicts, including in Ukraine and in the Middle East. In his first term, Trump went from threatening to destroy North Korea to meeting its leader Kim Jong-un. Now he says he's open to trying again for a better relationship with Pyongyang.
Well, if there is a conflict, I get along with him very, very well, and we'll get the conflict solved with North Korea. I've had a good relationship with Kim Jong-un, and I've gotten along with him really great, so we'll see what happens.
Trump's comments come just days after the 75th anniversary of the start of the still unresolved Korean War. Taiwan's first East Asian Men's Kabaddi Championship is underway in New Taipei, with athletes from across Asia vying for the top spot. Our reporter Sandy Chi caught up with Team Taiwan before the tournament.
Fans of the sport of Kabaddi in Taiwan are in for a treat, with the country's first East Asian Men's Kabaddi Championships being held in New Taipei. Kabaddi is a team sport which combines tag, wrestling and strategy. Two teams take turns raiding the other side, trying to tag their opponents and return safely, while holding their breath and chanting Kabaddi.
Chinese Taipei team.
This year, teams from Japan, South Korea, Hong Kong and Taiwan are competing over the weekend at a local sports center. Representing Taiwan at the tournament is the country's 2026 Nagoya Asian Games training squad, which is competing under the name Chinese Taipei. The team says they have been putting in intense training for this event.
我觉得最困难一定是训练啦，就是因为这项运动它的要有速度、要有力量、身体的对抗强度都很强的一个情况下，我们在平时训练的时候就要付出更多的心力，就我们要有田径的速度，我们要有柔道脚力的对抗，然后又要像举重选手或健身选手一样有强壮的身体。
Coach Lin Weihong says he has high hopes for the team.
那我觉得以我们近年来的勤收，我们然后带给我们的一些心血的部分，我觉得会有一些更好的帮助。那我觉得对于金牌的冲击，我觉得还蛮大的。
Though Kabaddi is not a common sport in Taiwan, the country's national teams have already made a mark on the world stage.
They put an effort, more training, more development side. They will put effort. They will get better than other team. So now I think one of the best team in the Asian region.
In 2022, Taiwan's players delivered strong performances at the Asian Games in Hangzhou in China. The women's team bagged silver, while the men's team claimed bronze, marking a significant milestone in the nation's Kabaddi journey. With the tournaments underway this weekend, Team Taiwan is determined to raid their way to victory and keep that Kabaddi glory in the country. So it looks like I won. Ran Wu and Sandy Chi in New Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Grapplers from across Taiwan gathered in Taichung for the 10th Kodiak Kup Jiu-Jitsu tournament. More than 80 jiu-jitsu of all ages, genders, and nationalities competed in central Taiwan. Host team Bears Den delivered standout performances alongside fighters from Kaohsiung BJJ, PMA, Cobra Kai, and 10th Planet Taiwan. Now in its 10th edition, the tournament highlights the growing popularity of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the country. Australia remains the top destination for Taiwanese youth for a working holiday, and in 2025, the number of people making the trip is back on par with pre-COVID levels. Lauren Padmore sees why thousands are leaving and how they come back changed.
Alan Jian is heading to work in his Australia-themed cafe in Taipei, inspired by the 3 years he spent on a working holiday there. His experience in Australia opened up doors to continue exchanges and make connections.
像现在，像开店以后，还蛮多外国人来的，你其实就可以跟他们对话。那可能去澳洲之前，我这些 conversation 我可能完全没办法。
In just over 10 years, more than 110,000 Taiwanese have made the trip to Australia under this program, which allows them to live, travel, and take short-term jobs while exploring the country. One of these people is Mike Shi.
Because I was a police officer in Taiwan, so I will say I don't like the environment, so I quit.
He arrived in November 2023, working in designer clothing after 7 years in the police force in Taipei. He says he picked Australia because of its reputation of being simple to obtain a visa, the higher pay on offer, and the country's popularity among Taiwanese. He's extended his 1-year visa to add another year and wants to travel elsewhere afterward.
I think my learning is just, if you want to do something, just go for it. And if you don't try, then never know.
For Ray Lai from Jiayi in southern Taiwan and now living in Taipei, the hardest part of her 2 years away was coming home. Back in 2019, she remembers life there feeling easier and being less stressed.
So it's kind of feel like if you're willing to work hard, and then you will get a certain amount of money that can provide you with like a lifestyle that you want.
Ray mainly worked in a meat factory in the rural town of Gundagai, population 1,700, but also explored the country's landscapes, ticking off major cities. Her time overseas made her see things differently.
Your job doesn't represent you as a person, but I think there's something that I slowly learned after I was like in Australia and until now. And I think that is a very valuable experience that is kind of hard for people maybe never leave Taiwan to understand.
But the working holiday isn't always a dream. Mike and Ray did shifts on blueberry farms briefly where the pay was low and work laborious. In recent years, unions in Australia have called for a government inquiry into underpayment and poor working conditions on these farms. Last year, Taiwan's representative office in Brisbane also warned of rising scams targeting young Taiwanese in the country. One tourist went temporarily missing after one scam. Despite these challenges, Australia remains a popular destination for working holiday makers. Experts have been speaking to me, saying returnees act as informal ambassadors, bringing back language skills and cultural insights. The people-to-people ties are deepened, creating a soft power between the two countries. It's a vision Alan shares.
之后的话，可能觉得可能会再办，像前阵子有办一些澳洲的讲座活动，对，那我觉得主要就是以澳洲为主嘛，所以之后的话可能也会继续办活动啊。
From making coffee to working in factories, the working holiday experience gave Mike, Ray and Alan more than just a paycheck. It brought new perspectives. Despite hardships, for many Taiwanese, Australia is a place for more opportunities to see the world and make meaningful connections. Chris Ma, Jeffrey Chen and Lauren Padamore for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, take a look at visitors at a Japanese zoo saying goodbye to 4 giant pandas returning to China. I'm Jaime Ocon. Take care. We'll see you next time.
For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, follow TaiwanPlus on social media.